What's up, dudes? Are you ready for a maximum update? That's right, today on PDubs Arcade Loft, where we always appreciate it when you hang out upstairs with us, we're talking about the AtGames Legends Core Max. That's right, this thing is going to get its first firmware update. AtGames confirmed it in the most recent release notes that they send out, or announcements. They've been doing this every month. They put announcements on their corporate social media pages as well as their YouTube channel. They release a little sizzle reel, plus they send it out to press and media, including myself, saying, hey, here's our news. Do what you want with it. Well, I definitely wanted to talk about it because I saw some things on here that personally excited me the most. And we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of this and why I'm actually now going to plug this thing in. That's right, guys. Since the AtGames Legends Core Max was received in my household, I bought this, I spent money on this, it arrived, but I've had like no real interest in actually plugging it in and turning it on because I have so many AtGames products in my house. Plus, there were a number of reported issues by other people who received their product, and these issues, a lot of them have been addressed in this recent firmware update that's coming soon. And now I think I actually have reason where I'll be able to plug this in and make some content with it and all that kinds of stuff. But let's kind of dive into this, right? So when it comes to the Legends Core Max, there will be a firmware update, but keep in mind it is going to be invitation based, and they're going to send out invitations to Legends Core Max owners via email, Legends Mail, and on-device notification for updating the firmware. Non-Legends Core Max Legends devices will not notice the update nor have access to it. So keep that in mind, guys. There's going to be a firmware update coming out by AtGames. Finally, it's been about, 6 months since they released a firmware update? And it's going to be for this device only. And when it comes to this particular device, let's pay close attention here, because there's some really exciting stuff. When you look at this, you got the firmware updates, right? The Legends Core Max was not being recognized as an AtGames Legends Pinball / Legends Core Max when downloading table packs from App Store X. People were having difficulty downloading tables to this device. Another reason why I never even bothered turning it on, and I just left it because when this thing came, it's on a factory firmware, which is like a base firmware. The gamepad input lag when you're playing with the AtGames gamepad, apparently there was some input delay. I saw that reported by some owners in forums, so that's going to be addressed. But this is really, really interesting. The internal 16 gigabyte storage will be used for App Store X downloads. That's right, guys. This thing, unlike a lot of other AtGames products, this thing actually has over 16 gigabytes of storage on it, maybe a little bit over 16 gigabytes of storage on it, and we can actually use it. It has free internal storage space on it, so your App Store X stuff, such as your pinball games, your Flash Drive X, your Pixelcade X, those kinds of things, you'll be able to download and run off of the internal storage on here, so you're not going to need a separate USB. Like, for instance, if you wanted to download and tie the pinball game software, because remember, the pinball games run at 1080p, 60 frames per second on this thing, you don't need a USB drive to set all that up. But what's really cool is it doesn't eliminate the USB drive. You'll still be able to plug in a separate USB drive. Let's say you want to run CoinOps X or bring your own games or things like that. You'll be able to do so. But all the App Store X programs you should be able to get them down there. You'll have plenty of room on here for additional pinball game packs and things like that if those ever get released. The biggest news of all, and let me get myself off screen here, is that the new apps management feature is going to remove the login requirement for CoinOps X and Add-on X, and this is where you bring your own games to this system, and that is huge. That is what everybody has been waiting for. This is the number one piece of critical negative feedback I see about AtGames over the last 2 years I've been covering these products, is people don't want to have to log in to play games off a thumb drive, off a flash drive. It made no sense to them. You always had to log in. You always had to log in. I remember this a couple years ago. You had to be logged in to run your games, to bring your own games. And then they changed it. About a year and a half ago, they changed it. You say, you know what, we're going to trip it down. Once every 5 times you turn on your device, if you want to play CoinOps X or Add-on X, bring in your own games, you have to log in to the machine. And people didn't want to log into the machine. They felt like they were being tracked. They didn't want their information out there. They didn't want people to know what games they were playing. The big bad arcade company was coming after them. Personally, I didn't care either way. But what's funny is AtGames has listened to that feedback because, man, a lot of people were hot about this. They didn't want to have to log in to play their devices. Well, starting with this firmware update, and keep in mind, it's just for this device only at this time, it's going to remove that feature. So you no longer have to log in to bring your own games, play your own games on this particular system. Obviously, if you want to participate in leaderboards and events and the built-in games, you're going to have to log in and have your ArcadeNet account and all that kinds of stuff. Now, make sure you read the fine print at the bottom. AtGames has been working on a new generation backend that will manage the apps in multiple tiers and allow certain third-party apps to not needing to sign in. They're going to introduce this feature on the Legend Core Max, and if it's successful, they'll evaluate implementing the feature across all devices at a later time and make that firmware available for an over-the-air update. So this is basically a test phase. If all goes well with this, there's a chance in the future, not guaranteed, that when it comes to all your other AtGames devices, they'll send out an over-the-air firmware update, and guess what happens there, guys? You're not going to have to log in anymore to play CoinOps X or Add-on X. It's pretty cool in my opinion. So that's great news. Hope that makes it past whatever the testing phase is and they just implement that, because nobody wants to log in to their AtGames devices to play their own games. All right, heading back to this. Other improvements and fixes will be specified in future release notes. Anyway, this is some good news from the AtGames camp. Happy to see this. Happy to see that there's internal storage on this thing, so whenever I do finally turn this thing on and download pinball games on it, well, I can just use the internal storage. I don't have to plug in another flash drive unless I want to plug in a flash drive and bring my own games and play my own games on this particular device. Also, very exciting to see that the login features are going to be removed. They're getting rid of them, baby. Getting rid of those login features. That's great news as well. But I want to know what you think. You guys gotta let me know what you think. Don't be shy. Let me know what you think. Leave me your comments, feedback, reactions below. If you enjoyed today's video, give me a thumbs up on the way out. And as always, my dudes, thank you for subscribing, and don't drink caffeine.